Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Girls Frontline reaction. Today we have the third version of Mythoclast, I guess, which is Poincaré Recurrence. This was requested by Creeksetzer Shab, and let me know that there's also a fourth one that I'll probably have to get to after this, but there's plenty of songs, so who knows what people will want next time. But until then, I at least have to get to this one because most people wanted me to get to this one. So without further ado, let's go. Ooh. Kind of messy. A lot going on. I can't tell if that's the upload quality or sound design aspects in there yet. It's kind of like a white noise that's heavy in there. Oh, okay, there it is. Made it more clear when the other instruments left. It's like a helicopter going. The image makes sense. I was really worried that we had a bad version. But once it made room, it made so much more sense overall. Just a lot of white noise. It kind of muddies things up there. This one's a lot more moody. I don't know if I would say cinematic. A little bit. More like a noir kind of cinematic. We're getting like beats, like story beats in the images. Okay. I didn't expect that much effort. I'll give them points for, Jesus Christ, yeah, putting in all the effort. I love the tone on this guitar. Really good effects on that. Just like whatever pedals and adjustments they made. There's some more standard like cinematic stuff, those strings kind of kicking in with that rhythm. Staccatos, man. Very cinematic. I mean, these swells and the brass underneath there, that's doing a lot too. Really good atmosphere. So I appreciate that the images were there, but definitely with how the audio was handled, I probably would have gotten the same story. I would have heard the emergency siren on the plane and been like, oh, okay, so we've crashed. You know, I would have pieced that together, but it's also nice that the editor put that in there just to be sure, you know, like keep that story together as much as you can. I appreciate that a lot. So I want to start with the negatives this time. There are a couple of them, but all of them stem from one major problem with maybe just this upload, but it's really just the sound design in here was a problem. I think that there is a world where there is a version of this song that doesn't have all of the other atmospheric stuff going on, and while that is cool and it adds context and I appreciate the storytelling in that, it doesn't really like harm my opinion of the song in general. It's just that I wish I could hear more of the song's dynamic range under all that, but there's so much volume on that atmospheric stuff and so much focus on it. It's set on top just like vocals would be in a song or dialogue over a conversational part during a movie or something, where I can't hear what I'm supposed to be hearing during the song, and that's kind of a bummer. I was listening through it, but like I said at the very beginning when it first started, and I'm like, that's a lot of sound. It did kind of back off a little bit once I was clear of what it was, and I could hear like the propellers rotating. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's happening here, and I'm able to dissect it in my mind as I listen, but it's a lot, and it really shouldn't be that strong. Obviously, this would probably be played during a portion of the game, and I would figure in these games, you're probably reading the dialogue if there is any during these moments, so it's like, okay, whatever, not a huge deal. But I kind of want to hear the song isolated without that. I saw there was a 30-minute version. I'm not sure if that has without it. I'll check in a few minutes to see if that is the case, if it doesn't have all the sound design stuff on there. But I hope that there's a version out there without all that going on, just so I can listen to it a little bit closer. I am curious to hear what the differences are, but I could still hear enough of it to figure out what was happening musically and kind of piece that together in my mind. And it's still really nice and it's still really pretty. I couldn't hear as much of Mythoclast in this one. I think that was just because of the approach to the song, having all that sound design in there. I feel like it was kind of weighing the song down, like the pace was affected, so I couldn't hear quite as much of any motif work that was in there. If it was in there, it was probably slowed down, so I didn't really piece that together. It's been a while since I've heard Mythoclast. I probably should have listened to it before this video, but I thought this was going to be a lot more like Shark and Sea, where it had more of that obvious callback to Mythoclast and have more of that motif work really obvious in the composition, whereas this one, if it is in there, I feel like it is. Vaguely I'm hearing something, but it's one of those, like, you play it at half speed and you hear something else. That's kind of what's happening to me here. I'm not familiar enough with the original version of Mythoclast for me to be able to piece together if that motif is in there, but at very least it sounds like it's trying to be. That's kind of my negative opinion of this. The other parts of it, though, are really cool, and one of them's philosophical, which is kind of neat, actually. A little bit of an insert here. I did go find a version without it. I was correct. Pretty much every other version had without all that sound effect stuff in there and that quality, but I'm glad I went back. There was definitely some more clarity to the Mythoclast theme. I could actually hear it in the other version. It was just kind of muddied underneath everything else, so unfortunate I listened to the one bad upload I think that was out there, so I'll be linking a better upload without all that sound and stuff, so anyone who's interested in hearing the full version doesn't get that crap added in there. But at the same time, I understand why it's there, and I assume they probably just ripped it from the game directly. But again, it doesn't really affect too much else of what I said other than the mixing. There was some fun stuff in there, a little bit more clarity on a lot of the sound design underneath it, especially a lot of more like the sound design of the song itself instead of being drowned out by all of that rain sound effect and all the other effects that were on there. But again, that's just unfortunately what I listened to, and it breaks the context of the video if I don't have that included. So no worries, I have heard the original, but it doesn't really affect my other thoughts about the song, so I'll get right back into that. There was a time in my past where I was a little bit of a philosophy nut, and I learned about Henry Poincaré, which I assumed had a connection to this, especially once I saw what the name of the song was, when I was like, oh, it's the recursion. So like the theory there is, well, I guess it's more of a theorem, but that's kind of splitting hairs. Point being, Henry put forth the theorem that basically at any point, eventually, there's like a finite, infinite concept of time where like eventually over time things will return to their original state. It's similar to the whole if you forget history you're doomed to repeat it sort of concept, and the general idea is no matter from where you start, eventually things will end up back at square one. And it's just a concept that most people have kind of accepted as, yeah, that is very possible, and in a lot of cases and a lot of situations definitely the truth. It's not necessarily a fact, and that's why it stays a theorem. It's just kind of a loose arbitrary concept that floats around like most philosophy is. But the fact that the song was named like that clues me in to kind of what's going on here in this story. The fact that maybe this character on screen, in my concept of what the story is and what I was learning through this event here and just seeing what was happening on screen, makes me feel like she didn't want to be back where she was, but she kind of ended up there. Like, she was eventually beyond what the point of this story forced her back into. She thought she was out of this shit, like out of the trenches, basically. Maybe has a more cushy job somewhere else, but something happened that put her back where she was, and she kind of remembered in a moment who she was, and that's why she's seen at the end carrying somebody out, and it's just kind of like, oh, there she is, the savior, as she once was. Even though she had moved on, she hadn't quite forgotten everything. But as the theorem states, eventually you will return to that. So I think that's a really cool concept. Just naming the song after that adds a whole different layer to this song and the meaning of the scene, I'm sure. And I don't know the characters, and if my concept there is accurate in any way. I don't know if my idea of what's happening here is close, but I'm assuming, based on what I know of that theorem and what I saw on screen, it's something to that effect. Like, she was out of the trenches, back into them, c'est la vie, that's just how life is. And more stating on the positive of the song, the musicality of this was really neat. I love the film noir style. It wasn't like a stereotypical kind of sound like a lot of general cinematic music is, that just focuses a lot on bass and brass swells and really doing nothing but stings on the violins and string sections. This did have a little bit of that, like I mentioned in there. There were some stings, but they were very sparse, so they acted as an accent, not a focus. So that changes the effect of them in the song and keeps everything around it a little bit more tied down, but also relaxed. So that entire song having such a high energy behind it with the situation that was happening, and that being the theme to it, kind of makes me feel like that's also playing into the theorem side of it, where like this character is kind of a badass in the most like calm, cool, collected, but will absolutely murder you with a straight face kind of character. Like, there is a point where this character can just turn off their subconscious and just go to town and basically become a killing machine to an extent, like a Terminator style thing. And that's where like that bridge of noir and film cinematic sound kind of comes in, where she feels more like a reluctant hero that doesn't want to be there, rather than the bullet catching badass that I'm sure some people perceive her as. But to her and her character probably isn't so much like that, and is more just stoic and quiet, but knows how to use her abilities and her body to do things that most people would probably see as superhuman. And I'm not, again, sure exactly where that line reaches in the GFL world. I already do know from the little bit I saw of the anime that they're basically all robots from what I remember, so that's kind of a gray area of like what's seen as superhuman. Point aside, she's still an absolute motherfucking badass, but kind of on her own terms. And I feel like that mixed with the theorem of just you're getting back to where you were. There's a point where she was just like, well, I've got to be a badass again. Time to go. Let's go. And that's kind of where this song takes place in my mind. Obviously, I'm not sure if that's the case, but since the name of this video also has M16A1's return, I'm sure that has a factor of like, oh, she was gone for a while, but now she's back on the front lines. And again, probably a little reluctant to be there, but not necessarily for any negative reason, just because maybe she was happy where she was, or happy to at least assist in other ways. So those are my general thoughts on the song. Usually I don't have quite this much negative stuff to say about the song, but again, I feel like a lot of that is rooted in just the mixing of this, and I feel like there's a version without it. I am going to go check and see if there is one that doesn't have that in there, but in general, I don't think there was much I could add to this part of the video either way, so I kind of kept going without going to look first, but I'll definitely know by the time this is out if that is the case or not. But I'll stop yapping and I'll digress, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you have any other songs you want me to get to, if you want me to get to that other version of Mythoclast, by all means, let me know in the comments below, and I will do my best as always to get to them. And if you just like this video and you want to follow me and support me for more stuff in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!